Okay, if not, so we will finish here. The most important part, your question look like this, if you can see it. No, don't take the picture, don't do it. Now, this year, the exam question style is different from last few years because of the, the discovery thing, but it's the same. The same type of question still being asked, but this year, the section 8 is a multiple choice question. Now, no trick question, only one single answer, and all of the questions I have looked at it, you have learned it in the lecture. Quite similar to what I just talked about here. Similar, not identical. Okay? Now, each question will be 1 point. Totally, it's a 20 question. No choice. You have to answer everyone. Now, be careful. This year, you have 3 hours to work on. There will be sufficient amount of time to finish it. Because multiple choice, you should answer each one within 1 minute. So count it accordingly by yourself. The second section is short question. Now, originally, I thought it was 5 marks, but somehow I have to make up many questions. So totally, in the section B, you have 15 questions. In there, you have to choose 10. Out of 15, you choose 10 to answer it. Each of these questions will have 6 points, 6 marks. So totally, you have to answer 10 of them. So now, because it will be 60% of all the points out of 100. So be careful. This is the most important part, 60%. If you can get this 60% correct, likely you will get a very high score. Of course, you have to finish the last section, right? Although it will be only 20%. In the section C, long question. This is the last section. You have 3 questions set in there. You have to answer 2 of them. Each of these questions will be 10 points. Okay? Now, I repeat it. Section A, you have 20 multiple choice questions. Each will be 1 point. Section B, you have short question. You have 15 questions in total. You choose 10. Each of these will be 6 points. So totally, in section B, will be 60%, the major part of this exam. Section C, long question. You have 3 questions in the script, and you have to answer only 2. Each of them will be 10 points. I forget, do we have the 360? If 360 is on, I cannot tell you the rest of it, because it is a recording. Sometimes it is on. You can see it on the blackboard site. I believe it's not on, right? Because last few years, in some of the class, it was on, and I can see my presentation. I'm worried that will be there. Now, from my experience on your coursework, I believe most of you are doing well, except 1 or 2 students. But otherwise, don't worry about this, the failing of big course, because usually, because of the distribution and the shipping. So if you can, please do it as much as you can also, because your coursework only constitutes about 30%, so this exam is still very important for you. So please pay a little bit attention to the following. Now, the part on tensor metabolism is a must, especially on the metabolic pathway regulation, how the thing is shifted. But this question will not set directly on cancer. You will not see this word cancer, but somehow it is asked in this way. Now, concerning which topic I'm going to put in the exam is that the top on enzyme, on the chromatographic technique. I forgot what's the other one. They will not appear in the final exam, so you can skip it. Now, for kinetic, it will be there, but it is not asked directly. It will be there, but this is not a difficult question. So you still have to read the kinetics part, but it is not a very difficult question. That's the only thing I can tell you. Sorry about that. Now, for the other one, on all the metabolic pathway, there must be more than 1 or more questions on that. So you have to pay attention to metabolism. Now, some of your classmates have asked me in the email which structure you have to remember. Which structure you have to remember, I can tell you now. Oxaloacetate, you have to remember. Pyruvate, all the 3 carbon intermediate that I taught in the lecture, you have to remember the shape because it is asked in the question. Also, 2 carbon intermediate too, what are they? Draw it out. Now, coenzyme A, you don't need to draw out the whole coenzyme A. You just write out co A, Now, all the 2 carbon, 3 carbon, and only oxaloacetate are needed to remember in structure. Also, one of your classmates asked which word can be used in abbreviation. Now, as I mentioned before, oxaloacetate, pyruvate, and lactate, those are the things you have to spell it out. Don't write abbreviation. This short molecule are important. Write out the whole name. But for the other one, like alpha-ketone glutarate, succinate, you don't need to worry about it. You can write short form. But otherwise, for pyruvate, lactate, oxaloacetate, you have to write in full form. Now, the part that I must include is glycolysis. So read it as much as you can, including details. Glycolysis is one of the major topics that I asked. The same topic was asked in different way, different aspect, in several questions. Now, I'm not going to talk about the topic in the multiple choice, but they are not, again, not in the question will not be set in the chromatography, and also, what's the first one? Enzyme, right. I cannot tell you. I forgot this one. I don't know whether multiple choice have a question on kinetic. I didn't write down on the multiple choice part, but all of these are about the short question and long question. Fatty acid synthesis, the calculation. Now, in the exam, there are at least one question on the calculation on ATP. Now, what are the pathways? It's the ATP synthesis during a particular metabolic pathway. So what was included, maybe included is glycolysis, TCA cycle, beta oxidation of fatty acid. Okay, memorize all of them if you can. Now for oxidation, beta oxidation of fatty acid, this is a little bit tricky because it can be, the fatty acid can be anything. It can be 15, even number or odd number. So be careful on that. No, not on odd number. Odd number is much more difficult, so don't worry. It's even number. Okay. One question on sugar monomer, the linkage between monomer. Of course, I cannot tell you what the question is about, but it's the linkage between monomer and also the reducing property, chiral property of carbon. Functions of NAD, NADP, and FAD. Now, it's not just asking you, or it is carrier of electron. It's a little bit more than that. Link it up in all the things that you learn in the lecture. Link it up. So somehow I have talked about this molecule at different lecture, right? Number 6, the location of different metabolic pathways. So where does the TCA cycle occur? Anyone can tell me? The location of TCA cycle. Right. Don't forget, not mitochondria alone. Mitochondrial matrix. Don't forget that word. If you don't put in there, sorry, you can only get one half of the answer. 7. Gluconeogenesis. Now, don't worry about the detail of this step of TCA cycle. I'm not asking you to memorize it and write it out, draw it out. Don't do it because you spend too much time on that. I want you to answer why. Usually I will ask you why it happened. So tell me the answer. Why? You explain it because of. Don't forget that word, because of, because you are answering the question why. So think about it. This is the answering technique one more time. Because in the past, usually, you spend a lot of time by rushing it. So when you answer, please think about the point first. Write it on your script, on your question book, the point that you want to answer. Once you think about it and think about how to write it out. Now, once you finish writing it, please go back to read what you have written. Because I find that when I read it, I find that I cannot understand it. So I give it to my TA, my RA, ask him to understand and tell me what you understand by this word. And he said, no, I understand it. Now, the problem is, if I cannot understand it, if he cannot, then I cannot give you a point. Okay, so before you finish the question, please go back to your answer. Read it out by yourself. Make sure that you understand the answer. That's very important because usually you will lose some point by not clear. So once you write clearly, you can get very high score. Okay, now the next one is the relationship. Oh, sorry, I'm not finished. Gluconeogenesis. What is the purpose? Why the cell need to carry out gluconeogenesis? and how proteogenesis is related to the TCA cycle. If you think about that, there's a link between TCA cycle and gluconeogenesis. Question number, no, the eighth number, point number 8. Relationship between glucose and fatty acid. Can glucose turn into fat? How? Or the other way, can fatty acid convert back to glucose? How? Question number 9. Oh no, sorry, I should not tell you the question number. Glycogen. Glycogen is related to the how glycogen is building up or breaking down. Usually the question are a little bit broad. You have to answer the relationship, why it happened in this way. I'll go back to the first point, glycolysis. The control of glycolysis, how the cell control glycolysis at different points. Because glycolysis is a very important process. That's why you have to understand it, the most important step in glycolysis. If you can, memorize the name of the 3 regulatory steps in glycolysis. Remember the name of the enzyme. Now, some basic thing about the principle of biochemistry. One of the things that you have to know about is what is oxidation reduction. What is reducing agent? What is oxidizing agent? And how about a strong or a weak reducing or oxidizing agent? Diabetes. Although the note does not have a lot of detail, but I will ask about diabetes. I cannot tell you a little bit more because it's very little to ask. Okay, the next thing is something new to you. It's called a term called flux, F-L-U-X. It's new to you, but in biochemistry, it is very common. I'll tell you a little bit more. I forget to bring the drawing pen today. Now, when a reaction occurs in a pathway, it's catalyzed by many enzymes. The rate at which a particular molecule, for example, glucose, is converted to pyruvate at a certain time limit, the consumption of glucose molecule into the product within a certain time, it is called flux. What it means is the rate of the reaction. How fast the reaction occurs is also referring to the flux. So therefore, in the exam question, you will see the word flux, metabolic flux. So what it means is how fast the substrate is converted to the product at a particular time. Like the analogy that I gave in the lecture, when like the TCA cycle, you can just consider it as a tube. Within the tube, there's water flowing all the time. The rate of the water flow, how fast it flows, is called the flux of that, of that water in the tube. The same is true for a metabolic pathway. How fast the molecule goes through a particular pathway, it will depend on the rate limiting step. It will control the flux of the pathways. Okay, so remember the term here. So you can go online to find out the more exact definition. But I'm not asking you the definition, but you have to understand this term, flux. As I mentioned in here, you have to remember all the name of the reaction that you can find in biochemistry, like oxidation, reduction, hydration, dehydration, decarboxylation, phosphorylation, translation, modification. All these reactions you have to remember. It will be present in the exam. Hormonal control on metabolic pathway, especially on glucose. Now the topic on lipid, don't worry about it, but don't forget that you have to read it, but you don't need to memorize a lot of terms. I'm not going to ask a lot on lipid, of the type of lipid, so don't worry about that part. The last thing, as usual, go back to read your past exam. I will ask you about the calculation on delta G, delta E, and equilibrium constant. So, let's see. The Faraday constant will be given. What's the other one? The R, the gas constant. Oh, I forgot to add that one. Maybe you should. Because the question script have been handed out to the office, so I cannot change it But I remember I did put in the R, the gas constant. So use the one with joule per mole per Kelvin. I think it's 8.314. So memorize it. Sorry, I forgot to put it in there. Now the question on this would be on any metabolic step, because all of this can be used for calculating the delta G. So, and then I will ask you, if you get the answer of this delta G, what happened to the reaction? Whether they will go into a particular direction. So the KEQ can be used for the explanation, right? So explain it in terms of the equation, why you believe that the reaction will go in this way. Okay, I think that's it. Every word here have been told you. So you should now able to get maybe 80 to 100, right? No one here should fail except the student that didn't come back. Right? So any question you want to ask? If I can answer. Any? If you ask it in a proper way, I can answer it. No? Now for those students that have not done the TLQ, please do it now. So only work on my one, please. No question. Then it will be the end of this course of chemistry. Sure. Now, one more hint. When you answer it now, because it used to be 2 hours, it will be very rushing. But this year you have 3 hours. So therefore, please spend much more time on reading the question. Circle out the important wording before you answer it. Otherwise, you get it wrong. When I ask KEQ, answer KEQ is equal to something. Don't miss that word. I will not assume that KEQ equal should not be missing. Otherwise, how can I get the point for you? Maybe that stands for delta G, not delta E. Okay, so therefore, please write clearly. And also one more point. You should have sufficient number of pages. So don't squeeze all the answer in 2 or 3 lines. Please separate a little bit so that I can write something on it. Because when I mark, I want to have space so that I can give certain mark on certain point that you made. Okay. Also, please write it clearly. Now, one time at 1 year, one student write the word very strangely. All the letter, like G, it's like this. Everything have a corner, and also in capital letter. And I'm very weak in reading capital letter. Every letter is capital letter. It's very difficult. So take me a long time to read that particular script. So if you can, please write clearly. The word, every letter, please be clear. Sometimes I will ask my RA, can you read it? If he cannot, I cannot give you a point again. Maybe I cannot read some letter, especially I and E. If you forget that dot, I will think that it's an E rather than an I. So please write it clearly. I believe on that day you should have sufficient amount of time. Just don't spend too much time on multiple choice, because they are not trick questions. You don't have to spend a lot of time think about the answer, which one is correct. There's no more than one answer, okay? No question. That's what I can help you on this. Thank you very much. Good luck on your exam.